So this is a regular TYCO Silver Streak, has the power torque motor in it. The problems that it has apparently are runs intermittent and the pivot or the drive gear coming off of the motor shaft likes to slip off of the shaft. So those are two of the problems that I'll have to fix, and one of the wires is disconnected. I got this from one of my friends. He's just been running it for a while and he's been having issues with it recently, so I'm going to work on it and see if I can't get it to run better. I'll probably clean up the shell too. It's in very good shape really for a Silver Streak. Usually all the chrome's worn off of them. There's only one area on the back where the chrome is worn off at all. Everywhere else really is in pretty good shape, to be honest, for one of these. So we'll get started. The one nice thing about TYCO motors, or TYCO trains in general, is that they pretty much use the same motor for every engine. So if you've worked on one power torque motor, you've worked on all of them. So getting the truck physically out, you just got to pry away from the shell. Just pry away on both sides where the little hole is. Then you have to get the truck frame or the holder for it off of there so you can get access to the brush plate and everything. And then take out the screws for the base plate. If they're not stuck in there, which this one is. These motors are very simple. As you can see with this one, a very common problem with TYCO stuff is that the wheels like to crack, as this one is, so it might make some noise if that isn't repaired. Be similar to the problem that Bachmann engines and any engine with a nylon gear has, is that it makes a clicking noise, and that the motor might lock up if it's going slow enough. I might fix that. What I'll probably do is just replace it with another one that I've got. I've got a lot of TYCO parts, so that shouldn't be an issue. The wheels look to be in good shape, and the traction tires as well, so I don't think I'll have to replace those. I'll just clean them up. The motor has a lot of hair and dirt in it, as you can kind of see, so that'll have to be cleaned out for it to run good. Well, it'd be ideal just to clean it out, just so it's not super dirty. The plate, or the brush plate, just comes off with 2 screws with the motor slowing down, is what he said. So most likely has oil on the commutator, as pretty much these always seem to. Just take these 2 screws out and then make sure you keep track of your brushes and your springs. The motor's fairly dirty and the brush springs look to be in good shape, so we'll take those out of there. I just got my tweezers because the one brush spring is kind of stuck in the little hole, so make sure you keep those somewhere where they won't get lost, because if you lose them, they are very hard to find since they're very small. You can see the motor isn't super dirty, to be honest, but it's dirty enough where I think cleaning it would benefit greatly. The best way I find to get this gear off the silver gear here is to take, if you have a pair of tweezers similar to this, pretty solid, fairly sharp point on them, and just put them underneath the gear like that and kind of just pull it off, kind of pry against the case of the motor, and then you can get that off, and then you'll be able to take these gears off very easily. And as you can see, there is a little bit of hair on at least this gear right here where it sits. There's quite a bit of hair wrapped around the shaft, so we'll get all of that cleaned up and get it all degreased and everything, so because it's very oily, everything, you can probably see how dirty it is. So we'll do that right now. All you really need is some isopropyl alcohol, to be honest. I use 91%, works a little bit faster. You can use it with a paper towel, or you can use it with a cotton bud or something similar, and you can see all the dirt and stuff that comes off. So I'll continue doing that. Next thing you want to do, so this will have a lot of carbon buildup on it as well from just the motor and the brushes, so you just spray some of the electrical contact cleaner, or you can just use the isopropyl alcohol. Either one works. Basically the same stuff, to be honest, just one's in a spray can, and you can see how black that is compared to what it was before, and this has turned out a lot cleaner. That'll just keep your motor cleaner essentially. So the last part that needs to be cleaned are the brushes. Basically do the same thing, just hold the brushes in the paper towel, or you can use a cotton bud. Doesn't really matter, you just spray a little bit of that on there, kind of work it around. This is how I do it, at least. Makes it go a little bit quicker and it's a little bit easier to do. And those brushes are now clean, so I guess I forgot, need to clean this up too. I just do the same thing. You can use a cotton bud, or you can use the spray and just spray it on there, and use a paper towel or a cotton bud. Get that motor cleaned up. One thing I also forgot to mention is that sometimes the gears have a lot of hair and like built up grease on them, so ideally you want to clean those off. It probably doesn't really hurt if you don't, but at this point I'm just going for cleaning the whole thing up, so I'll just do that. Clean up the gears. You can use isopropyl alcohol. It all works pretty much the same, so we'll do that real quick. So this thing is ready for reassembly. So the worst thing about Power Torx is that you can't really, it's not very easy to put the brushes in after you put the motor or the brush plate back on. Usually I always find you have to put the brushes in and then put the motor plate on top of it. Makes it very difficult because you have to hold it very steady so that the brushes don't fall off. Because usually with these you can see they've soldered they've put a big blob of solder right here, and it kind of interferes with the clips that hold the brush plates on. So it makes it very difficult. If you try and take those off, likely the little clips that hold the plates on will break, and don't really want to do that. So I will have to probably put the brushes in on the motor or on the brush plate and then kind of sandwich the motor on top of it. You kind of have to hold it very, very steady to be able to do that, because otherwise the brushes will miss or will kind of slide around, and then you'll try and put the motor together and it won't go together because the brushes will be out of place. So I'll get it set up for that. So the easiest way to do this, basically I've got the springs in there already. You want to get your brushes back on the top of, it's almost pretty tricky to do that in the first place, let alone try and talk while doing it. But you want to put the brushes on top of the springs and basically get them in the very middle of the springs, so when the motor goes to press down on it, they will be able to go down into the retainers. So you kind of have to sandwich, and you kind of have to look at it from the side. I can't really see it very well. I can't look at the camera while doing it, but you have to basically do that. And with luck, you can get it first try like I just did there. But very often, the brushes will not be quite aligned right, and you will have to probably take it off and realign the brushes, put them back in the center. And I lost a screw. Where did it go? Alright, I found the screw. But what I was saying is you'd have to take the motor back apart and put the brushes back in the right spot and basically try again. So it's just, it takes a very steady hand pretty much. But that motor is back together, so now we can test it. I haven't put any oil on it or anything, which I probably should do. Just put some oil on the, well, I'll put some oil on it. Don't need too much because, one, you don't want it to go everywhere, and two, the oil will get on the motor commutator if you put too much on the front. So we'll try it, and needs more oil on the front, but yep, it seems to work alright. Spins at a constant speed, so yep, put a little bit more oil on the front, And the back I don't think really needs any. It's kind of gone everywhere, but I'll clean it up. Put a little bit on there. And we'll try it again. Should be pretty quiet or just sound like a regular motor, to be honest. Yep, sounds good. So we'll continue putting this back together. Have to solder the wires. They've both come off of the brush plate, so we'll do that next probably. So I've got it all soldered up. The one thing with the TYCO motors that you want to make sure you do is put this piece on first before you solder on anything. Countless times I've soldered the wires on and then I've forgotten to put this piece on, and you can't get it around the motor, so you have to unsolder the wire and put that on and then resolder the wire. It's kind of a pain, just more of an inconvenience than anything. But the next thing pretty much to do, just put some oil on all the where the shafts for the gears go. So just want to put the gears on first, put them back on in their normal spots. Pretty easy and straightforward, to be honest, since there's only 3 gears to go on. And then the pivot gear, or I don't know if this is considered the pivot gear, but spins pretty good. Maybe put a little bit of oil on the face of this one just since contact is made for it. Spin it around a little bit. I think I put the wrong one on because one of these gears has kind of a burr on it, on the top of it, where they didn't cut the molding material off. With one of them it is completely smooth, and this one, which is usually, you can see the little dot on it, that's a bit of plastic that's sticking up. Usually you can just cut that off, but just switch the gears because it's more convenient. So it'll work perfectly fine now. Spins freely. Clean that shaft up because the gear press fits on there, and if there's any oil, then it won't be, it'll probably just come right back off. What I'll probably even do is spray a little bit of contact cleaner in there, or isopropyl alcohol, just to make sure that there's absolutely no oil in it, and then we'll stick that gear back on. Usually you can just press fit it, make sure the gear is lined up with the one next to it, and usually you can hold the shaft on the front if there's too much room between the gear and the bearing, and you can just press it on a little bit more. And if you press it on too much, you can just pull it back just a little bit. You don't want to pull it. It's a very fine line between where you want it and where it's too far away. And with this engine, the issue that he was having was that the gear kept slipping off the shaft. So what I'll probably do is put just a little bit of super glue on the, that's way too much, but get some of that off of there. Just put a little bit of super glue on there to keep the gear in place so it won't move around anymore. Let it dry for a little bit, and then put some oil. Probably put a little bit more oil on the bearing there, just because it'll need all of the oil that it can get. The brass bearing will soak up the oil over time and prevent you from having to oil it every day, pretty much, because these motors like to squeal when they get dry. And you'll know when it's dry because it makes a very loud racket. I put some more oil on the shaft. That means we can start putting this thing back together. Just press this on pretty much. Kind of tricky, but it'll just snap on, and as long as it's loose and can turn like that, then you should be good to go. The motor has to go that way because the insulated wheels are on the left side. For the back, just put the clean the wheels up just a little bit and put some oil on the where the bearings are for the inside of the motor truck. Just put a little bit of oil. It doesn't really matter how much you get in there, to be honest. You want a little bit just so it's good and lubricated. And I'm going to swap this one out with another wheel that I've got that's in better shape and doesn't have a crack. So I found another one that's in better shape, doesn't have a crack in it, as you can see. So I'll replace that one with the one there. Shouldn't have any issue. Then you can screw the base plate back on if I can find my screwdriver. Pretty simple job, just 3 screws, just like every other TYCO engine. And then after the front truck is put on, I'll put some oil on the wheels for the back truck just to make sure, because it'll only help. Got to put the light back in as well. So that's supposed to go like that. And press back in, down in the shell. It's not working. And then you should be able to press the motor back in. There we go. So, pretty much done. Just put some oil on the back set of wheels. Pretty much like so. And I can see this wheel is cracked as well. Pretty much every TYCO does that. Well, a lot of them do. So, this one should be good. We'll put it on the track and see if it works pretty well or not. So I've got it on the track and I've got it hooked up to just the regular controller, so we'll see if it does anything. Seems to work. Let it run around. That's about half power on the controller. Starting to speed up. One thing I didn't mention to do was clean the wheels, so I'll probably do that, and then we'll try it. I'll stop it over here and I'll clean the wheels and put it back on the track. Well, I've let it run around for a little while. I'll let it run around more just in case to make sure, but it seems to be running pretty good now. I cleaned the wheels and yeah, seems to be running smooth. The amount of power it's drawing is decent. Not super high current for this thing, because we're going at 60%. It's a pretty strong controller. We'll slow it down and see how well it runs going slow. Starts pretty smooth. It's pretty good. A little bit noisy. I might have to put some more oil on it, but yeah, going this speed. No real issues, really, to be honest. It's a nice smooth runner. So I think that'll be it for this video. Now my friend can get his engine back, and yeah, I think that'll be it. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you around in the next video.